Great, we're online. Hello, Roger and George. So good to see you guys.
Hi, Lloyd.
Meet you virtually and to virtually meet you.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to chat about your life experiences, about church and business and family and everything in between. Just to kick us off, I'd love it if you could just briefly introduce yourselves, anything interesting, just who you are, church, family, just where you are right now, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, great. Shall I go first?
Do it.
I'm Georgina, George, and this is Roger.
Hello.
We currently live in Lille in France. We've been here, well, it'll be 8 years for me at the end of June. And you moved here just a few years, months before me, just a few months, because we were married at the time. And we are church planting.
Still married, by the way.
We lead a church called Cœur de Grâce, which is Heart of Grace. We're a very small church plant, actually. We've got 2 children. I currently am self-employed English teacher to adults and businesses. And what do you do with your time?
Yes, and I am released full-time for the church plant. So we've been here 8 years, but when we moved here, I was also an English teacher in businesses for about 4 years. And then for 3 years, I worked in a digital marketing company. And just before pandemic, we took the plunge to release my time to be available to hopefully steer us to a next step with the church. And obviously that was quite a shock with all the pandemic and the timing of that, but actually we realized it was the best timing and God's timing for us. So that's the adventure.
I suppose we should add that we're actually in a cafe project too.
Yeah,
because that's why we're in Business Link.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're currently working towards opening a cafe here in Lille as a team. There's Roger and myself and a lovely lady called Danielle, who is our admin accountant extraordinaire. The cafe, shall I go into detail, Lloyd, about this? Is this too much?
Yeah, no, begin going into detail, yeah.
Great. The cafe is going to be a social not-for-profit enterprise, and will run very much as a kind of secular cafe, but run by Christians and full of the Holy Spirit.
Wonderful.
And the money that we hopefully earn from it will be pumped back into projects such as mums and toddler groups, language lessons for refugees, as well as continuing hopefully on with people in business and maybe kids youth groups and things like that. Got lots of ideas, and we're really we're in the process of that, looking to open next year in 2022.
Oh, exciting. Can you just tell us how you sort of decided, or how you came to be of a mind to start this cafe, and maybe even just rewind a little bit, how did you feel the call to even go to France and get into church planting and then go on from there? Because I guess both of you are working jobs, so you've been working full-time, you've been doing family full-time, doing church full-time, everything mixed. So just take us through that journey of how you started, how did you stop, how did you lessen your, the bit where you're doing teaching, and how did you transition into where you are and get this vision for a cafe?
Yeah. Shall I, I'll take the kind of call to France and you take the cafe
deal.
beginnings. All right. So I think it's largely my fault why we're here in France. Mainly because when I was a teenager, I was at a youth meeting at a Bible conference, a New Frontiers one called Stoneleigh Bible Week. And that was when God first gave me a sense of call to French-speaking nations. And I won't go into the whole story because it will take a long time. And I'm notorious at telling long stories, so I'll try and be brief. But I think it was through that helped me decide to study French at university. And I was part of a church in Canterbury, the City Church Canterbury, that had a real heart for the nations and fulfilling the Great Commission, taking the gospel from not only into the local town, but beyond the end of the earth. And so I was in a fertile soil that just kept being fed with, yes, dream for it, go for it. But it wasn't for a long time later until actually we felt God call us to come to Lille. And that was when our church had become part of what was and is now known as Relational Mission, one of the families within New Frontiers. And it was largely came about because of a prophetic word that said that God was going to give favor for church planting along the Eurostar line, just as he used the Roman road network 2,000 years ago to carry the gospel. He'd highlighted the man-made structure of this high-speed train line in our day to do the same. And it was a combination of hearing that word shared at a prayer meeting, and also this was shared on the back of a team having come out to one of the first stops on the Eurostar line over from England, which is Lille. And the team had come and prayed here and met local pastors, and it had just been an excellent recce mission, I suppose. And I think for me, seeing that combination and sort of smelling the authenticity of the prophetic and the apostolic responsibility coming hand in hand together, was very, well, just, I was like a tinderbox, and there was the spark that lit it. And essentially I shared that with you, Love, and obviously we'd already been married for a while by then, and I'd kind of been quite open in the early days that, you know, one day I feel we're going to perhaps go to France or a French-speaking nation. Would you be up for that? And you felt yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, we moved here in 2013, having first heard that sense of call about almost 2 years before, just under 2 years before. So there was lots of, you know, testing the water, asking people who are wiser than us to counsel us, advise us, but we would come out and visit Lille. Thankfully, it wasn't very far away from Canterbury, and visit, and we felt, yeah, we could do this. And so we are doing this. We've been doing this for 8 years and absolutely love it. We're on a thrill of an adventure and have been planting a church. I mean, we were just us to begin with, and then little by little people moved to join us, become team with us, and then we got traction with, you know, different people locally. But it's been a long, slow road, honestly. It's been hard to see, you know, the sort of rapid multiple growth that you might hope for, that you dream for. But equally, that's helped us to learn, you know, God's metric of fruitfulness, not of productivity, and not, you know, the classic things that everyone asks you. So how big's your church now? It's actually discerning fruitfulness in people's lives. Who's God given you? And how are they growing, and how are you growing? That's more important. But equally, we thirst and long for more. And something that has caught our attention in recent years really has been this concept of a cafe.
Yeah, so I think in regards to the cafe, God spoke to us quite early on about our love for coffee. Yes, we both love coffee and cake. And we spent a lot of time, we led the student work for a while in Canterbury, and we spent a lot of time in coffee shops when we were doing that. And just the atmosphere and what those moments kind of relaxing with a good cup of coffee can do with a relationship, I think deeply impacted us in many ways, because I recently read, in the last few years I've read the Starbucks Experience, and just a lot of the talk of the third place, of people, you know, be having work and home, and then the need for a third place, and that has been the church in the past, and it's been pubs, and there's quite a kind of coffee cafe culture that's taken over that third space. And with that, we just kind of connected, well, actually, where is the third space here? And could we be part of providing that third space? Because France is a very secular country. It's famous for its laïcité, which is secularism. And so kind of announcing the gospel publicly, or, you know, doing church that isn't a church Catholic building is quite unusual. So we'd started to feel a bit like, oh, well, we love coffee, we love people. I worked in a pub as a student. I think it was one of my favorite jobs. The whole customer service side of things I really enjoy. Obviously I do that now in my job as well. And we had this dream, I suppose, until we shared it with Danielle, who was on our team, and her husband, who are very kind of accountant, figures, people. And we were just sharing, and we were thinking, oh, they're just going to say, oh no, we can't afford to do that. You know, let's just look at the spreadsheet. And they both just went, let's do it. Let's just give it a go. You know, what if we come 10 years on and we've never tried? We didn't even try. So we kind of put our heads together and with them and said, okay, well, let's try and make this happen and see if God just blows on it. And he hasn't exponentially blowed upon it yet, but we've definitely felt his blown is the word, actually. English teacher. So we really feel like a core team. We've had some amazing help. Being part of our Business Link has just been phenomenal, so helpful, and we're kind of, I want to say the start, but we're not really. We're beyond the start of our adventure.
Definitely.
Feeling very excited about the project.
Yeah. So where exactly, what stage is it at the moment with COVID and everything sort of being mixed up? Where, can you just tell us a little bit about where it is, where you want it to get to? What's the sort of vision of it and how it links into, you know, the church and wider than that?
I think the COVID period has obviously been a challenging one, but also helped to draw out, you know, give us more time to think and distill our concept, which has been really helpful. So we've been through several iterations of a business plan together that we worked on, and have been able to now present that more widely and start to receive, you know, input into refining that plan. So ultimately, that's the stage where we're at the moment, and we've decided we want to seek professional coaching as well to enable us to get to the next step, ask us the hard questions and put it through the ringer. Of course, we're based in France, and so although the team currently are all Brits, but who speak French, obviously we're going to be beginning a French business here. We all speak French, and we will be translating our plan once we've refined it, you know, into French, and then seeking local authority assistance that can help us to take those next steps. But we're putting a lot of feelers out now with local contacts and people that have a like-minded spirit, and so we've been connecting with people who are doing similar projects, and that's been really helpful to hear their story and share our story. We attended a Business as Mission Global Congress, which was again really inspiring and a great assistance to us in just the way that we're thinking, but also people we've connected with. So that's really the stage we're at.
And I think we're also looking at what's available in Lille, property wise, kind of scouting out what could and is around, with some businesses sadly not having made it through the pandemic, and thinking about, as a church, perhaps hiring a couple of offices where we could start to really put down and start some of our projects before we have the cafe. So really that will start to just put out feelers and have clients come to those kind of things and be like, so when the cafe does open, we say, okay, we're just moving this group to the cafe. So
kind of road test with a bit of pop-up cafe, you know, experience in that space, rather than renting a utility space, really, rather than the hotel space that we'd rented just on Sundays before. We want to rent somewhere we can use all throughout the week as well, and just start to get some traction in the community before we find and launch in the cafe space.
That's wonderful. That is so exciting. I just love the way that as you guys talk, I just feel like you guys have got so much faith, but it's not like you know, let's go do it tomorrow type faith. It's let's get on the road. Let's start this. This is we're in here for the long haul.
Yeah.
And it feels like God has done something in you to prepare you almost to give you this durability. And I'd love you just to reflect, maybe just to go back again and just tell us about where did this patience come from? You guys must have been through some difficult times. Obviously, as 20-year-olds, let's go change the world. But you guys have moved on from that sort of at that time. Tell us about maybe some of the trials you've had, transitioning from full-time to changing jobs. Just reflect on those, and how did you come through those trials together, and also as a church community, as in whatever setting you think will shed light on how you came through, and how maybe teamwork, as well as apostolic input, fed through into that and just really drew you along and kept you going.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, isn't it?
Could you repeat the question? And then you got something?
Yeah, lots.
Go on.
Okay.
Kick us off.
I think that's really good, Lloyd, and really astute, because it is really a long haul thing here in France. And I think, as Roger's touched on, that when you move to church plant, you think, I'm going to go save the world, and our plant will be 500 people in the first 2 years. And because sometimes that does happen, but we moved to northern industrial France, and we moved here as a British couple, so even just having French friends has been long.
Taken a long time.
And I'd say that even the majority of our friends are still not French, like our core people. So it takes a long time to we really took a year when we moved here to get used to the culture, to be here. We served actually in another church that was already happening in Lille, just to get fed and learn from people, make some friends. And I think in regards to durability, we've really had ups and downs. I can think of just one major down, amazingly, by the grace of God, really. I think when you're called somewhere, there's this kind of, we talk to our kids about just knowing sometimes how we catch from God. Sometimes we feel him, sometimes we can hear him, sometimes we just know. And I think for us that's been a key thing. We've just known, God, this is where we're meant to be. Because I think when we've come to crunch points where we're like, what are we doing? Why are we not growing? Are we actually touching lives here? Are we being Christians like in this place? I think it comes down to saying to God, where do you want us? And we don't hear anything else. Nothing. It's like, no, where you're meant to be. I've called you to do this, and come back to, I've called you to try this cafe out. So in a sense, we've had to learn just to be faithful in that.
I was just gonna
I was just going to add,
go on, my love,
that we did have a sort of our first meltdown, I suppose. Was it after Christmas this year? Yeah, where we were both, usually it's one or the other, when I'll be like, no, and Roger will be, no, it's okay, and vice versa. So we boost each other up. But this year we were both like, what are we doing? Is this right? And we did reach out to Maurice and Rachel Nightingale and just said, we don't know if we're meant to be here anymore. And they were so kind and said to us, if you've moved to another country and you just like it, then that's a win. And it's okay if you come home after that. So that was just like, okay, that's so releasing to know that we haven't failed. We've been just faithful and obedient. And one last thing before Roger comes in, I think something Graham Hall said to us, who's from Ashford in Kent, said to us before we came, just enjoy the journey. And I think we've really tried to keep that. And I think as we go on in this project, it's going to be something we're going to have to keep coming back to, because you feel the weight. We're both in full-time jobs, we're pushing for this project, and we've got a family, as you say, but we really want to enjoy life and come out at the end and be like, we enjoyed life. Okay, maybe we weren't multimillionaires, but we tried and we enjoyed.
Wonderful.
Do you know what? That was pretty much what I was going to say. She's so
beautiful
good.
Teamwork there.
Yeah, look at that.
I probably said it in a shorter way.
Most definitely. So
I'm sorry, that's awful. You just boosted me and I just knocked you down.
That's fine, love. Reality check. It's helpful.
Sorry, love.
But no, I think George is very right. I think we've learned to really embrace living here, and you can look, there's the greener grass conspiracy. You can look at other people and their progress. You can compare yourself to that. You can hanker back to wasn't life easier when we were back in the UK, or I miss my family, and real things. They're not like weak of character feelings. They're real emotions. But I suppose learning to grow and process our emotional health more and more has been a key to endurance. We've been really influenced by Pete Scazzero and the emotionally healthy church and discipleship material that he's developed. That's been really helpful for us, just a framework to help process things. But I think also in that crisis moment of like, Lord, do you want us somewhere else or what? We just realize we have so given ourselves to putting roots into life here. And actually we love life here. So it's not just if things haven't gone quite exactly as you'd imagined, let's just uproot and go somewhere else. I can't just remove myself from life here, because I absolutely love, every which way we're connected into life here. And I think also, and you only have to take a short look into the Bible to see when God called people, especially in the Old Testament, that, the call on people's lives would often take years, if not decades, if not a lifetime, for even, something of a semblance of fruit to come about in it. And, we're in such a immediate now results society that actually to slow down and be led by God's pace for his plan to unfold is just so important for durability. And hey, we're still young, we've got decades ahead, God willing, or he might call us home, and that would be great as well. But it's you bed yourself in, and actually we have felt, wow, we have laid a lot of foundations here, and there have been several words about us being about an intergenerational work, and we believe God that our kids will carry on. What we sow in them and what they're caught up in, they will lead on the charge. And whereas almost as many kids as adults in the small church plant we think, wow, this next generation burgeoning, who we pray will carry it on as well. But we do feel a lot of momentum for not only Lille, but just our heart for the French-speaking world. It seems crazy because we're just a small church plant, but we are captivated by the vision of churches being planted across France and Belgium and Switzerland and Luxembourg in Europe as French-speaking nations. But there are 29 French-speaking nations across the world, 300 million speakers, and you just think, wow, the opportunity, the scope is so vast. And so that spurs us on and makes us think, wow, our cafe project in Lille can be part of seeing God's great plan come about.
It's great.
Fantastic. It's so exciting. Can you guys just respond just to this word sustainable, just in terms of relationships, in terms of everything holding together, kids, just maybe each of you just give it a minute or so. What does that mean to you? How have you grown in that? Making sure that things are sustainable on all fronts. And maybe add to that a pepper of joy. So sustainable and joy. How do you keep that mix going?
Nice.
Like that.
Go first.
Yeah, I'm first this time. I think if something's to be sustainable, you need to know your limits and embrace those limits. Because if you overextend yourself, overcommit, or do too many things, try and do too many things, but you end up spreading yourself too thinly, you're not able to sustain what you are and who you're seeking to invest into. So I think it's embracing that and knowing that, and obviously the person who knows your limits best is God. And so connecting in with God, communing with him, abiding with him is of course the greatest fuel for sustainability in life, in relationships, in work, in in every context. So I think that would be my take on sustainability.
I think everybody's limits are really different. I think everybody's capacities are really different. I think we're quite high capacity people in many ways, and low perhaps in some other ways. And I think if you're thinking about family and church and life, I think you have to really work together to decide what is sustainable for your unit. And I think that's something that a strength perhaps that it'd be really interesting to do this interview in 10 years time when we've done the cafe, like we're doing it,
Let's do it.
So just you can ask us, you said 10 years ago. For now, because we're working together, but we don't work on a 24/7 basis together, I suppose, at home and
I hope we'll sleep
in the workplace.
when we open this cafe as well.
Yeah, that's not what I mean. But back to what I was saying. I think we do have, I think, quite strong communication between us. And just personally for me, I suppose, as a mum, that I always thought I was studying American history and politics when I met Roger. I thought I was going to go to Washington and save the world. And now I'm a history teacher in France.
History teacher?
No, I'm an English teacher.
Change of jobs there.
Sometimes I talk about history.
Yeah.
And I think I feel I could look at that as like, I really sacrificed to come here for you. But thankfully I don't feel that. But I've had to, I suppose, in my own career path and decisions as a woman, as a mother, and as a wife, and as a child of God, be obedient to those things and put some things to one side, but embrace all the other things that are probably way better than saving the world in Washington.
Oh, wonderful. It's been awesome.
I don't know if I answered that question.
No, that was a good, thorough answer. So just to close off, I'd love it if you guys could just give just a few sentences to someone who's starting off, maybe 20 years old, thinking of starting a business, thinking of doing church planting at the same time, thinking of starting a family at the same time. What few little nuggets would you give to them, just really briefly before we close up?
I think they want to surround themselves well. I think it's great to have drive and ambition and ideas, and that's good to foster those and go for it. But I think, we need community to outwork any sense of call, be that, in church planting or in business, or the combination of the two. And so, personally, we're only on this sort of vanguard of church and church planting and business, and sort of that combination. Right now, before it was, we worked and we were church planting, but we didn't have this sense of that being the cutting edge at the same time. So I suppose it depends where they feel called, what they're doing. But we find, if they can connect in with something like Business Link, that's going to be a great way for them to have like-minded people who are on that same journey, and most of whom have got masses of experience. So that would be my thoughts. How about you?
I'm going to be precise. I'm going to say, be obedient to what God is calling you to. Good. Enjoy the journey, and with that, be obedient. I think they're connected.
Nice.
That was fantastic. Well, I just want to say thanks to you guys for staying up to chat. It's been awesome just hearing your words of wisdom. All of that, you guys have been obedient. You've hung in there, so well done.